As soon as I click the start recording thing. Now we're good to go.
All right, let me record in Zoom too, just in case.
Might as well.
Can you give me permission, sir?
I already did.
Thank you. Please request recording permission from the meeting host.
Try again. It's already there.
There it goes. Record to the
It was there as soon as I said it was going there.
There we go.
By the way.
All right. Generally, we'll do a segment, and then you'll hear Michael do a pause. It'll sound awkward, but it's just for his editing. And then he'll go 5 seconds go, and then we'll read off another one just so you
Roughly.
guys.
So when I say go, don't actually go immediately. Then I need wait a couple seconds.
I don't think any of them are doing any stuff. We're introing every article, so they'll
true.
just hear it. They'll just hear it. I just wanted to make them know there's going to be awkward silence in between articles.
That's good. That'll work.
Except I think, Dolphin, you're going to ask Michael what he's been up to this week after we go through yours. And then is there anybody else that has anything? I think that's it. Yep.
I have something at the very last.
Yes, you have something at the end. But by the time we get into that section,
you could just go back to back.
You can just go right after he's done.
That the outro section is back to back. Because I can, if I need to edit, I can.
All right, perfect.
How about the Keepers of the Dark Crystals? That's more obvious.
Fine. And partially true. Ruined my random sci-fi call out.
I must say, being behind the scenes of this kind of thing is kind of just remarkable with the amount of effort going into that intro.
Oh, yeah, it's different every time, and he also makes up stuff. This is the first time I was like, what?
Well, you knew what it was.
Yes, but I know, but that's only
you're that geeky.
No, it's because you made me watch that ridiculousness.
And then you said you loved it.
No,
by the way,
didn't.
Dark Crystal on Netflix, everyone. It's they've done the prequel to the movie, and it's done with the puppets, and it's really stupid and annoying at first, and then you kind of really get into the story and end up liking it.
It's pretty fair.
I'm not wrong, am I, Mike?
Pretty fair. It is stupid, and then you do start liking it. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check it out. All right.
There we go.
Also, whenever you're not speaking, mute and you can mute in the Zoom because that's just to guarantee that I can do as little editing as possible. Because otherwise, you're just torturing me. Okay. Welcome to episode 146 of Destination Linux. This is a podcast of opinions made up of 4 of the greatest minds ever talking about our passion for Linux. I'm Michael, and with me today are the Skeksis of Linux, Ryan, Dolphin, and Bo. So Zeb and Noah are out this week, and we have 2 very special guests standing in: Bo Weaver, our favorite hacker and pen tester, and Dolphin, the developer behind the beloved MX Linux. So Bo, how's your week been?
It's been okay. I really enjoyed the Linux meetup this weekend. That was a lot of fun, especially having my grandson there, and he had a great time too.
Yeah, that was awesome. Every time you come, it's a joy because you always share some hacking secret or just something behind the scenes that people who don't work in that field, they generally don't get to see. And sometimes you even perform live hacks, which is everybody's favorite. But this time you brought something a little less harmful. It was a notebook from the old days of capturing server logs when you were working on servers, right?
Yes, that, and I still use those things. That was my engineering files on things that I build or little projects that I have or ideas. I put them in that book. Also, I use a lot of paper at work too. I use these books. The reason why I brought that one was that it's a new book and it's only got stuff that I don't care about other people seeing. But I use those books. I'm old school. I draw out networks and keep paper notes that I later use for fire starting.
Well, speaking of that, and for those who don't know, we're talking about, I have a meetup group that I started in North Georgia, meetup group. So anybody who's in the US in the Georgia area, you're welcome to join. It's for all levels, skill levels out there. But Bo, you also had the diagram in there for some little server you're plotting to build here, which was pretty cool.
Yes, I'm building a Beowulf cluster out of 32 Raspberry Pis. It's going to have the same computing power of the first Cray supercomputer. It's going to run at like 10 gigaflops. I'll be able to crack, I think it's 10 million passwords a second. I'm going to use it for a password cracker.
And how many pies was that?
32.
Nice.
Okay, so for less than $1,000, you can crack 10 million passwords a second.
But for about $1,200, including the switch that you need and all that, it's about $1,300. And yeah, I'll have a Cray supercomputer, an old one.
What bothered me about seeing that, though, Bo, and I didn't tell you this while it was there, but it's been bothering me all weekend, is that you planned your whole network out with this beautiful diagram and everything else, whereas I just slam things together and get them up and running randomly and throw them some random place they shouldn't be and securely on my network. And, I just don't think it's fair to show off that you have more talent than me.
Well, that's something that really kind of makes me really sad coming from, I studied to be a structural engineer back in the 70s after I got out of the Navy. And so I've got traditional engineering background. And the first thing you learn to do is draw. And you learn about specifications and project planning. And that's something you don't see. We call ourselves systems engineers, but most systems engineers I know can't draw, a square box and a straight line and make a network diagram.
They need a program to do it for them, right?
And people forget, a picture tells 1,000 words.
Yeah. So I think it's really more like, Bo is doing building out a diagram and getting everything ready to go to the network. And Ryan, also, I would have to say I agree with you. I'm in the same situation. But we prefer a point-and-click adventure approach to our network. So that's just how we do it.
Point-and-click adventure.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody can you see that?
Yeah, so for those who are watching the video, he's got it all planned out, perfect diagram. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let me show you how my network works, and there would be zigzags and.
Oh, by the way, there's a program called DIA, D-I-A, that comes on Linux, and it's in any of the Linux distros. Mm-hmm. But that's what I use to draw that. It's a great, simple little drawing tool for drawing out networks. It's got all the little router icons and all that. But that's what that was drawn with, was DIA.
Very nice.
So Ryan, how's your what's new in your world? That's a weird way of saying that, but I'm going to restart. So Ryan, what's new in your world?
So like Bo was saying, we had the North Georgia Lug group meet up this week, and Brian, who's also known as Ninja, in the Telegram group, which you should join the Telegram group if you're not a part of it. It's now ridiculously large with over 1,000 people, but it's an awesome way to network. But he hosts this in his business that he owns for us, because we basically outgrew every coffee shop that was out there, because it used to be just Linux and coffee, and then there was no coffee shop that could hold everyone attending. So now it's at this business place, and it's just been really awesome because we can bring a lot more equipment in, and we can even leave equipment there to start building some things for the local projects. So I highly recommend, if you're not a part of a Linux user group, to become part of one in your local area, because it's just a great way to network with people and also get to know other Linux enthusiasts out there. But one of the interesting things that popped up, because generally, a lot of the issues that may come in, there are people far more experienced than me in, for instance, Linux or fixing Arch issues or that type of thing. But in this case, there was a hardware problem, and I was like, I got this. This is my realm, finally. So somebody brought in a AMD 3400G and an X570 motherboard, which has the Vega graphics on board, so they didn't have independent GPU from the system. And the problem was they could run Windows on it perfectly, but could not get any distro to run on it. So we have Brian there, who's an Arch guru, Arch Master loves Arch there. We have me. We have a bunch of people, John from the Telegram group, all of these individuals very experienced in Linux. We're throwing everything on here from Pop! OS to Arch to Ubuntu to Debian. We can't get anything to boot. It just all fails. So there were a couple things that we noticed after 4 hours of troubleshooting here. One was the possibility that the Vega graphics are causing, of course, the hang up, the built-in graphics to the CPU. So we tried some different options to work around that. Still couldn't get it to boot. We also tried some independent GPUs that were around, but we didn't have the right power cables. So the computer we could not get working. Windows works on it, nothing else. It was one of the first times, actually, after 4 hours that I couldn't get a machine to work, which is frustrating. It certainly speaks to the fact that there's a lot to be desired when it comes to Linux support and AMD together with those, because again, when Windows is the only thing working, it's quite embarrassing.
Yeah, but this is also a new hardware thing, right? Fairly new.
I mean, this isn't really that new. I mean, if you look in the, I mean, this has been out, what, 4 months plus now, this stuff. So, I mean, one of the issues is you're using the highest end motherboard with one of the lower end CPUs. But again, I think that this is one of those things that it should work at this point, right? We've had, and I'm not saying it's a Linux fault. It could be AMD issue, and I just don't know yet, but he's going to bring the computer back. A lot of people were running to their home, grabbing different cables and things. There's a couple items that we suspect could be causing the problem. And hopefully we'll be able to find a distro that works. But regardless, it was fun to spend 4 hours. I mean, that's fun to me. Spend 4 hours trying to figure it out. And, hopefully when he gets it back, we'll be able to resolve that issue. But it was interesting to see a situation in which we just couldn't get anything to boot with this distro besides Windows on there. But Windows did lock up, so there could be something else behind that. But other than that, I wanted to mention that I wanted to give a huge shout out and thanks to everybody. We talked last week about the GNOME Foundation fighting against patent trolls. And just today, which we're recording this on Sunday, they have reached their goal. They have been funded for the full $125,000 in legal fees. So
Nice.
Just a huge shout out to the amazing community, for those that donated and those who couldn't donate, those who took the time on social media to share it with their friends and everybody they know, so that those donations could come in, because I think that's just such an important it was important for the community to come together, because this is the first time many of us know of any patent trolls coming after an open source project. So showing them that you don't want to mess with us as a community was really important.
Yeah, and also just to note that it's probably not the final amount that they'll completely need for like the entire time, because depending on how long this case goes, they might need more. So while it is full funded for the initial launch, it might be a little more later. We'll follow up on that if necessary. So Dolphin, how's your week been?
Well, my week's been pretty good. Excuse me. I'll tell you one thing. I started the week by donating over at GNOME for the fund there, for the defense fund.
Nice.
So that was really a high point of my week, sticking it to some patent trolls, I hope. But
Nice.
This has been a great week. So I went down to Ohio Linux Fest this weekend. Steve Mo West in the Destination Linux Telegram group said he was going to be down there, and I have never met anyone from the MX community who or anything, and his son has actually contributed to our latest release. So I went down and met those guys, and that was a lot of fun. Sat in on a sudo session where I actually learned something, but the guy was having some problems because he forgot his notes. But once he got back on track, I learned quite a bit about configuring sudoers files. I tell you, his example was a lot bigger than what I would ever use, but it was impressive. And it was just neat seeing people. And of course, I wore my great big Debian shirt, and I walk in. The first thing that happens is, "Where'd you get a Debian shirt?" I don't know, Amazon. I don't know. It came in. You ordered it. It came in. It's you can find it. It's fine. So we did that. Fried chicken, lunch, and learning a bit about sudo at the Linux Fest. Other than that, a lot of scouty type stuff, doing some food drives for the fall, getting ready, stocking up those food kitchens and doing some real world stuff. And I'm even starting to dabble in app images a little bit. So trying to get our live USB maker
cool.
into an app image so that people on other Linux distros can make an MX or Antix family live USB.
Nice.
And that's going well. It's still testing phase. I've got it working on Manjaro, Debian's Buster and Stretch, of course, the whole MX family. And I think we're through about half the Ubuntu's right now, making sure the thing works. It doesn't work on Knoppix, and I don't know why.
Just some random thing, right?
It has an error. None of the rest of them have. I don't know. I've got it checked, but we've got guys throwing testing in our forum. If they want to check it out and try it, it's in the public app development forum. They can download the app image and test it on whatever you want to test it on, and then post whatever error message it gives you back, because it probably will, and we'll try to fix it. But it's until you've built an app image or something like that, it is hard to imagine what all the actual dependencies of an application actually are.
Yeah.
And there are a lot that don't get pulled in by the depends because everybody just assumes a base system. So that's been real exciting. It's been real frustrating. And the other frustrating thing has been, of course, MX release last week, or the 21st. And, of course, nothing turns in bug reports like a release. So we've been squashing all the release bugs.
Yeah.
We really thought we had that wired, but we'll talk about that later.
Sounds good. Yeah, we have MX coming up later in our show. So it was a perfect timing for you to show up.
Yeah, it was very good. Michael, how was your week?
My week's been actually quite awesome. We've been lots of work to do on DLN. We're actually working on, speaking of, talking about where do you get shirts and stuff, we are launching a DLN store, and I've been working on that. So it should be out by the time this releases. It's not, as we're recording, it's not exactly out right now, but it's close. And we're going to have shirts for every show. We're also doing a DLN launch shirt, which is really awesome because it has like the network on the front.
I love this shirt.
And it looks great. And the network on the front and the back is going to have all the shows in like a concert style, so it looks pretty cool. And we're working on some other things. We also have like different products that we're going to be putting out, like not just shirts. There's going to be like mugs and a variety of things, maybe even like stickers and some other stuff and some hats at some point. So we're working on all kinds of different things for the store, as well as some other things to integrate to, different, not just products, but also different like things that we're going to set up for, like affiliate things, stuff if people want to do support that way. But we're creating that, and it should be released sometime this week, probably as we release this episode on Wednesday. It should be available by then. But if it isn't, very quickly after that, it will be.
Yeah, huge shout out to Eric Adams. He is one of the hosts of DLN Extend, and he also had his wife, who is a incredible graphic designer, do the work for this shirt. And you basically, when you see it, I just love it. I know I'm biased, but I just love it because it has every show on there. So you kind of get to, it's like one of those concert tour shirts, where they have all the bands come in on tour, and you've got every show right there in the DLN family. It's just really cool. I think you guys are going to love it.
Yeah, and Eric also did a ton of work on the store and building it out. I think actually he probably did most of the work, really. I did a little bit here and there, but he probably did the most. So I think huge thanks to Eric and his wife for helping out with this launch that we're doing, I guess.
Yep. Michael, your audio is super low.
You're super low.
Thanks, bro.
Got him.
I think you're attenuating. Did you?
That shouldn't be.
It seemed like it. Maybe it was just because everyone else is so high and you're so low, but it almost felt like you dropped off.
I'll just tell you on my end, everybody's real smooth across the line.
Oh, really? Okay. That might just be me.
If that gives you any clues.
I didn't want to cut you off, but I didn't want you to go too far without checking, because then you'd only have to edit that first part.
Fine.
Did you have attenuation on?
Yes.
I knew it.
I'm a professional, people.
Yeah, we do this every week.
Yep.
Like clockwork.
Perfect.
Yeah, nailed it.
It's just like a Skeksis. This episode of Destination Linux is sponsored by DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean offers the simplest, most developer-friendly cloud platform. It's optimized to make managing and scaling apps easy with an intuitive API, multiple storage options, integrated firewalls, load balancers, and so much more. You can get access to this plus all their world-class customer support for as low as $5 per month, or you can use their flexible pricing structure for as low as 0.7 cents per hour, and that's darn near free. DigitalOcean also has 2,000 cloud-agnostic tutorials to help you stay up to date with the latest open-source software, languages, and frameworks. And not only are we love talking, letting you know about DigitalOcean because we love DigitalOcean and we use it all the time for the Discourse forum, the Mumble server. So many things about Destination Linux are powered by DigitalOcean because it's such a great service. And if you want to get started with that service, you can go to do.co/DL to get 1 month for free with a $50 credit by going to do.co/DL. And we thank DigitalOcean for sponsoring Destination Linux.
Bo Weaver uses DigitalOcean.
Well, that's the greatest call out ever right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the pen tester himself.
That was perfect.
Yeah, I love it.
Will they send me a credit since I gave them a plug?
You can use our $50 credit.
There you go.
Do.co.
No, I can't get the $50 credit. I've been using them for too long. They gave me a $10 credit. 5-6 years ago.
So
Yeah.
This is not in the edited point. You could just make a new email address. I'm just saying.
Oh.
I'm sure Bo doesn't have any secret email addresses. He would never.
No.
That doesn't sound like something Bo would do.
No, not me. I run my own email server.
Probably just uses everybody else's once he hacks them.
There you go.
Right. All right. Let's see. Go 2 seconds, Ryan.
Now for some community feedback. And thankfully this week we don't have anybody yelling at us about our opinions on Arch. So that's good. But Chad writes in and says, to whom it may concern, I would like to start off by saying that I really enjoy the Destination Linux podcast. Really appreciate you saying that. I'm currently running Linux Mint Cinnamon Edition. I would like your opinion on backup software for Linux. I would like to be able to back up 2 different internal hard drives to an external drive. Be able to schedule the backups would be a bonus. I'm just a beginner to Linux, so I'm not that technically savvy yet when it comes to internal workings of Linux yet. Thank you for your time and assistance, Chad. So this is something that I did a lot of exploring in, especially when I set up the FreeNAS server, which was Noah's recommendation on what are the best ways to get and easiest ways to get all of my systems backed up to that server. And to me, after researching all of the different options, and there are a plenty out there, Deja Dupe is my suggestion. Deja Dupe is a super easy interface. It is basically you just go down the line to set up what you want to back up, when you want it to back up, what you want to exclude, and where you want to put it. Mm-hmm. It couldn't be any easier. You can schedule it to run on different schedules, whether you want your backups to run once a week, every Monday at a certain time, all of those things. It's just a very easy, simple solution that's fast to set up on multiple computers. So that would be my recommendation, but we have other experts on here. So how's everybody else do theirs?
I mean, depends on how you're like in terms of this particular question, as far as like being a beginner to Linux and one of the easiest way to do it, but still be effective on it. I would say Deja Dupe is probably the best option because it's just such an easy way to do it. But if you want to do and if you go farther in and when you get learn more about Linux, you can do things like rsync and you could do things like duplicati and use duplicity directly. And there's things like that. So I would say in this particular question that Deja Dupe is probably the best option, but there are quite a few of them.
I use Lucky Backup, which is older. It looks older, but it has a lot of the same features where you can set up multiple tasks. And so each one of the user's backup scenarios would be a different task, and you give it a time, and off you go.
Nice.
And I liked it because it looks very much like Cobian backup from the Windows world. It has a very familiar interface.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people like to use some of the terminal options out there, like rsync, which is more powerful. I just found the switches in rsync. I mean, it was, and I asked Noah about this. I said, "How do you remember this switch that is, 2 sentences long?" And he's like, "I don't. You write it once, and then you put it into a script,
Bash
and then you
scripts.
share it across your machines." But I don't know. I didn't really trust at that time when I was setting all this up the scripts that I had set up to do the backup, whereas Deja Dupe, I knew what it was doing and I could see it running, and it just made a lot more sense to me. So I eventually want to learn the scripting part of it, but I think everyone here would agree, probably start out with the GUI and then go deeper into it from there.
Yeah, I use rsync, but I don't recommend it for somebody new to Linux. Like you said, you end up with a string about this long, but that's the way I do it. I have a template rsync file, and I change it around for whatever I need, but it's got all the excludes in there. It's a bash script.
Nice.
And I just modify as needed and use it. But I've used that script probably for 15 years or something.
Wow. So once you set it, it's kind of a set it and forget.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's been modified over the years, but it's basically the same script that I wrote 15 years ago to be used in a data center. I just change it around when I need it.
Yep.
The dog didn't bark. That's shocking. Someone came in. The dog didn't bark.
That's why you were muted. I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, I was waiting for the dog to bark, but he didn't bark. Okay. Weird. All right. I'm going to butcher this name. Up next in the feedback, we have, sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, but Aitor, I'm not. Anyway, says, "Hi guys, I'm listening to your latest podcast, and you mentioned Kubuntu was the best distro for running KDE. I suggest that you give a try for OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. I use the former at work, and I use KDE Neon on top of Kubuntu. We'll get to that in a second. And later at home, I like the green distro more." So he says, "This is the highlights. KDE Neon is based on Kubuntu LTS. That's actually not correct. You can get the latest Kubuntu KDE and not so much regarding the other packages." That's true. Actually, KDE Neon is based on Ubuntu directly, not Kubuntu. They're very different now. Originally, it was based on that, but now it isn't. OpenSUSE adds what you doing? Oh, I forgot that. Oops.
Come on, Couples.
My bad. I was supposed to get a tape measure and I forgot to do that. Oops.
You're in so much trouble.
Probably.
We're professionals.
Are we?
No.
Okay, cool. Good thing I knew where it was and remembered to put it where it was supposed to be. Now he's barking.
Go. And sync. And
Perfect. Thanks.
you're welcome.
It was the third and that did it. So, oh man, I forgot what I was saying. I'm just going to start over. Up next in the community feedback, sorry I'm going to butcher your name, but Aitor sent an email in saying, "I was listening to your latest podcast, and you mentioned Kubuntu was the best distro for running KDE. And he says that he suggests OpenSUSE Tumbleweed instead, and he says that he uses KDE Neon at home, but he uses KDE Neon at work, but he uses OpenSUSE Tumbleweed at home, and he likes the green distro more. He says KDE Neon is you get the latest KDE, but not so much regarding other packages. And he also says that OpenSUSE adds some KDE integration to common non-KDE software like Firefox out of the box. And that's actually really nice. Not all distros do that, but OpenSUSE does do that. And he says I like rolling all the way. I left the twice-a-year upgrade stress behind when I moved to Arch years ago and never looked back since. And with OpenSUSE, you have Snapper. And he goes, well, not really KDE related, but being able to roll back the OS to multiple points in the past rocks. He says it saved him a bunch of times while he was in a rush. And he says, Yast, you may like it or not, but it is definitely one of the most comprehensive admin tools for those that doesn't feel at home on the command line. And he says, awesome show. You make me feel part of something. And that's great because that's what we want to do. So one of the things he does say is that one thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people think that KDE Neon and Kubuntu are related because they're both KDE Plasma on top of Ubuntu, but they're different because Neon is directly based on Ubuntu and Kubuntu is a separate structure that's an official flavor, whereas Neon isn't. So anyway, I'm probably going to make a video about the exact differences, but just to be clear about that. So if you're wondering why he was mentioning Neon instead of Kubuntu, they are different distros. But I agree that OpenSUSE Tumbleweed is a really cool distro, especially with their Plasma. They're not my favorite Plasma setup, but it's different in the sense of like why I say the things about running Kubuntu as the default. As my default distro, saying this is what people should use for KDE Plasma. And that's not necessarily a fault to any other distro. It's kind of a fault to Plasma, because I think the default Plasma setup is not good in many, many ways. And I think Kubuntu has addressed almost all of those issues. And that's why I said when someone wants to try out Plasma, and especially if they've never tried it before, I would suggest using Kubuntu because it's the best out-of-the-box experience, especially for beginners. So if someone's coming to Linux, if they've never used Linux before and they're just brand new and they want to try out Plasma, I would absolutely suggest Kubuntu because it removes a lot of the headaches and barriers that Plasma comes with in like other distributions that don't necessarily do that. Because vanilla Plasma has some issues, and I think Kubuntu is the best distribution because it handles most of those.
Yeah, so it's interesting here. You almost think maybe Cubicle Nate sent this in and then just changed his name because of all the tumbleweed love in here. So I'm not sure this is really a different person than Nate. But no, I've really enjoyed my time with OpenSUSE and Tumbleweed specifically. I've enjoyed the distro. I liked Yast immediately. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with they've taken all of these administrative tools and put them in one area, and that one area actually works. Whereas everybody else who seems to try to put everything in one area, it just makes it more confusing and you get more lost. But there is a lot of people who seem to not get Yast, and I'm a little bit confused by that, but maybe it's because I don't do that as a profession. So for me, having all those tools there, easy to see and easy to find, was welcome. And if somebody's experienced, maybe they don't want to go through Yast. They want to do everything in a terminal. I don't know.
I think Yast has this interesting situation because they want to simplify things, and they do it somewhat well, and then at the same time they do too much. So they make it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So for example, me and Ryan were working on something, and we were using OpenSUSE during one of the times I was doing DL at his house. We were doing something, and I needed to install something. And then we were installing something, and it opens Yast, and it goes to the thing, and it's done, completed. And I said, why does this not go away? And he says, well, you just go click here, and it goes away. It's like, but there's nothing on this window now. Like, it's really just saying, this is complete. There's no reason for me to manually dismiss it to go back to the thing that I was already... Like, that's the reason that the issues people have with Yast is because, technically speaking, it's very impressive. But they do certain weird things that makes the polish kind of go like, but does it need to do these things? Like, also, for example, when you go to the software.opensuse.org, that you have to choose whether you're using Leap or Tumbleweed, which always made me wonder, like, why does that work that way? Because when you open a software in Yast, it's going to automatically be the one that you're using because that's the one you're running. So if you just open that individual into Yast, individual package in Yast, it will give you what you're supposed to have.
Because that software store is going to link back to your Yast anyways.
Right.
Which if you're on Tumbleweed, it's going to give you the package for that, and if you're on Leap, it's going to give you the package for that.
Right. So it doesn't really matter that
interesting.
you have
There's
this
a lot
like
of
there's
inconsistencies.
yeah, it just
in
doesn't have the
Leap.
polish, but as far as functionally, it is quite good.
Yeah. So very interesting too is that Michael, you have been playing with OpenSUSE Tumbleweed as part of your distro hopping recently.
Yes.
Is it one where you thought I could keep this around?
Well, it is because it's because of the Btrfs and Snapper stuff. Like that is really cool being able to go back and forth. So I can mess with stuff, and then if I don't like it, I could easily go back to right before I did it. So like that kind of thing is really cool, and I do want like basically every distro to have that kind of feature because that's just awesome. So and
it saved my butt multiple times.
Yeah, and having like ZFS being put on other distributions like Ubuntu and everything, like that's going to be a very powerful feature to get. But having that rollback option is so nice that I can just mess with stuff and even things that I don't really know what I'm doing on. Like I could start tweaking different kernel parameters and stuff, and then seeing what happens, and I could easily go back and not have to worry that I broke something. So that's a really nice feature, and I do like that. But in terms of like overall experience and polish, I think that in terms of like KDE Plasma, like this, the feedbacks were about their out of the box experience is not really the best in my opinion. They make certain good changes, but they don't change enough in my opinion. Because that's the problem with Plasma is that you really have to change a lot in order to get to a reasonable state, in my opinion, especially for beginners. So like, but when it turns to what's the best distro for KDE, I don't necessarily have a preference of what is the best. I just have what's the best out of the box. And if you use a particular distro that you like and you want to put Plasma on there, feel free to do that. My point is just, if I'm going to suggest something, I want to be suggesting something that is, I know up front that people aren't going to have to deal with any kind of weird issues, whether they like double click or single click or whatever, or whether they like a certain menu that's set up that doesn't really make any sense because there's certain weird things that Plasma does, like instead of displaying the name.
We got Mike
no.
talking about Plasma. Oh, gosh,
I'm not gonna go off on a tangent.
I'm
not gonna go off on a tangent. I'm just gonna say that if you have like when you
get it, okay?
No,
Ubuntu's
it is the best, yes, and for beginners distros, yes. But when you load up a system and you go to the menu and you look for a certain software, you're looking for the name of that software, right? Plasma by default has the description of the software, so it's like you can't search for the name of it because it doesn't display it by the name and it orders it by the description. So if you're looking for Firefox, it's actually in W for web browser. Why? Like it's just weird things like that. So like some distros fix those things and some do not, but actually most do not. That's why Kubuntu is what I suggest.
OpenSUSE devs, reach out to Michael. He'll hook you up with some KDE.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. So Ryan, you're next, buddy.
Yeah, you do go 2 seconds.
I'm just messing with you because you clapped earlier.
Sure.
All right, go 2 seconds.
All right, and last we have some feedback from Everett. He writes in and says, "Hey, fellow Linux lovers. As a migraine patient, I'm always looking for useful things to do when laying down on the couch. Destination Linux is perfect in that situation. It keeps my mind busy with Linux stuff and then falling asleep. And that is a nice thing in that situation. Listening the DLN stream from a Linux machine, Manjaro is my main distro. Manjaro has a really nice installer, especially when dual booting. My way to try different distros. Having fun with Linux for 20 years, and it started with computer magazines. My interest is Linux, freedom, people, and music. A true DLN listener since episode 63. I can't believe we kept a listener that long. That's amazing. You might be the longest lasting listener we have. Keep up the good work. I love you all four. Hugs from the Netherlands. By the way, I use Arch.
Of course.
I love that ending. Yeah,
Nice.
Of course. No, but I love emails like this because we get emails from people who have things going on in their life.
Start that sentence right after we get emails, whatever, because I had a weird hiccup.
So we get emails from sorry.
Let's
try it again.
All right, hold on 2 seconds.
I love emails like this because we get them from time to time of people who are dealing with various things. It could be ailments, it could be life issues going on, it could be just work. And hearing that this show helps anybody to feel better or to have a better experience and make them happy, make them laugh is an absolute joy to hear. So thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you so much for putting in there. By the way, I use Arch because that's just very important for people to know.
I'm just thankful for the idea to listen to DL when I'm having a migraine, because I can think of nothing better to relax to than Mike's sweet dulcet tones.
Yep. Yep.
Would probably lull me right off.
Yep.
Maybe one of those 5-hour streams on the news would work too.
I can do that too. Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if the migraines are happening because of listening to Destination Linux.
Why are you putting it out there? Why are you putting that out there?
Yeah, no, we're
just
the ones
like
that
a
cure it.
Skexis right there.
Yeah. The DNL network does not have any liability insurance pertaining to migraines.
Exactly.
Especially when you bring up plasma and you have Michael.
I'm sorry. That's a good place to end it, actually. Here we go. We love hearing from our worldwide community. We have many ways that you get your voice heard, including just sending an email and also sending your own video in. So if you want to send in a short email or video, you can do that by going to, or not going to, because you're whatever. You can just send an email to comments@destinationlinux.org, where you can send the email if you want to just send a comment, or video links, like you can go to put it up on YouTube and do like an unlisted if you want to, or you can just put it in your channel, that's fine too, and just send it to us and we'll maybe even include it into the show. So especially, and if you do that, we're still doing the swag, I think, right? So so if you do get a video on the show, you'll get some swag sent out to you if you'd like to have that. So be sure to send it out to comments@destinationlinux.org. All right, I actually messed up and moved everything, so give me a second.
Congratulations, Michael. You screwed up again.
Well, I am hosting and running everything and stream and recording everything and switching everything.
Get my violin out.
And doing a masterful job.
Exactly.
Yeah, incredible.
And helping migraines.
Yes, doing
That's
a wonderful job.
Or causing them.
Well, whatever. I'm going to go with helping.
No, I never. It's so funny. I never got migraines until they really started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And my brother got them for years, and now his are like gone away. Now I have them, so it's just kind of weird.
Wait a second. I think I started on the show 1.5 years ago.
That's probably it.
Uh-oh.
We pinned down the issue. You could tell your doctor.
When Rob left and everybody else came on, that was probably
migraine started.
Probably when the migraine started.
He's like, they're so dumb it hurts. But I can't stop listening.
There were some rough points there at the start, but you guys are pretty solid these days.
Yeah, we had a lot of rough points.
Yeah.
But you can see we still have them. They're just between good editing.
Yeah, I just edit out the rough points, yeah. All right, so go 2 seconds, Ryan.
So this week in the news, we have Fedora 31 being released. So Fedora 31 and all of its flavors have been updated right on time, right on schedule. They released it. So if you're following the schedule that they put out there, this is when they plan to release it, and boom, they hit it. Of course, it comes with the latest GNOME 3.34 with all of the suites of enhancements in there that we've talked about. Refresh background choosers. Firefox is now running natively in Wayland, custom application folders, those type of things. We also talked about the fact, because there was some discussion about, well, Fedora is dropping 32-bit support for bootable images. Why isn't everybody up in arms? Because when Ubuntu announced it, everyone was mad. Fedora announces it, nobody's mad. Well, big difference here. They're keeping the 32-bit support for applications such as Wine and Steam and everything else, which is what Ubuntu eventually did after the outcry. So that's why nobody outcried here over Fedora doing it, because they basically, I think, either learned from the lesson or had this plan to begin with, which is the right way to get 32-bit support eventually moved out. Updated the kernel 5.3.7, Mesa 19.2. Another change that they have here, and this is a quote from Fedora Magazine, The Docker package has been removed from Fedora 31. It has been replaced by the upstream package Moby engine, which includes the Docker CLI as well as the Docker engine. However, we recommend instead that you use Podman, which is a cgroups v2 compatible container engine. CLI is compatible with Docker's. Fedora 31 uses cgroups v2 by default. So I guess that means a lot to people who use a lot of Dockers, but didn't mean a whole lot to me. But I have seen some people complaining about this change, certain things not working correctly, specifically with Red Hat. And my understanding is that Fedora 31 is in Red Hat in this particular area, at least, have the very same setup of moving to this Podman, and certain issues have been caused from this.
I think Podman is made by Red Hat. I could be wrong about that, but I think it is. There are some arguments about whether or not Podman and Builda are better than Docker in certain ways. Docker has, kind of like it wasn't really the initiator of the concept, but they're the ones that popularized it, and they were one of the originals in that space. And they the way they did it, they kind of like cut corners initially, and have since then solved most of the issues that people had with it. But it is kind of interesting because, well, not most issues, significant issues, I guess. And so it's interesting that they decided to do this, because Docker is like the go-to most popular version for containers. And a lot of projects will actually release Docker images rather than, trying to focus on supporting a specific distribution or specific setup. They'll just release Docker images. So it is interesting that they're doing this, but I don't really have a preference of which one they're doing. So I'm curious to see how that works out.
I was surprised by that too. Like Ryan, a lot of that's little bit of jibber jabber for me. But even I know what a Docker is. The concept of a Docker. I've heard that name 100 times, but I don't really play in the server space. But it was just kind of weird that they were shifting away from the entire terminology and everything.
Yeah, they're kind of doing their own thing, and it'll be interesting to know for people who are using these on a regular basis whether you like the path, and you can write us an email and let us know that Red Hat has gone here, or whether you think that them going kind of their own direction here is a negative. I'd be very interested to hear people's opinions on that. But in addition, they're switching RPM compression to ZTSD. So this is supposed to decrease the amount of compression time needed and improves overall performance. But I was looking at some work that Phoronix did recently on the performance front, specific to just the distros overall. And the Phoronix test suite, it's like 900 different benchmarks in all of these areas. And he was testing against Ubuntu 19.10 and Fedora 31, along with Fedora 30, and he threw in Clear Linux. Now, not surprising at all, Clear Linux dominated everybody. It's 20% faster across the board. That's kind of Clear Linux claim to fame, if you will. I don't think it has much, but
and basically its purpose.
Yeah, basically it runs everything really fast. But I don't think it's a very usable distro outside of that for most people. But Ubuntu 19.10 was about 5% faster overall than Fedora 31, according to those conclusions, which, isn't a huge, honest gain. And there were, depending on the benchmark, areas where Fedora 31 was faster, and there are areas where Ubuntu was faster. But I will say, regardless of the benchmark tests, it was really nice to see a tweet out there from Ubuntu sending a nice congratulations to Fedora on their Fedora 31 release, which, it just shows and demonstrates community engagement, right? Everybody's happy for everyone who gets a release out there. And I think that went a long way for everyone to kind of see that partnership, because they all are working on similar projects in many ways. For instance, the enhancement of GNOME, the enhancement of Wayland, all of the work that they're doing benefits all the distros. So it's good to see, that partnership and kind of collaboration there.
Yeah, I definitely like the community engagement. Like and a lot of distributions are doing that, because most people look at these distributions as being like competitor to each other, and technically speaking, they are, right? But most of the time, the developers in various different distros actually contribute to many other distributions as well. So you'll have people who work on Kubuntu working in Neon, people who work on Debian working in Ubuntu, and people who work in Fedora also building packages for OpenSUSE and etc. So there's a lot of overlap as well. So it's not just a competitive nature. That's one of the best things about open source, of course, is the collaboration that's going on in all these different projects. And it's also nice to see that they're doing it in like a public marketing sort of way too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always nice when the big boys are nice to each other.
That's right. If they can get along, we can too, Michael.
We'll see. All right. And speaking of distributions that also work with other distributions like MX, Antix, and Debian are all work together in certain ways. So MX Linux 19 was released this week. Was it this week?
21st.
Technically, yeah. And also we're going to... Every time I say that, it's like... I also like immediately think in my head, well, we're recording on one week and we release it on the next week, so it's weird for me to say ever that. So anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be about 10 days back from release.
Yeah, so I'm going to fix that. So speaking of distributions collaborating, MX 19 was released recently, and MX does a lot of collaborations with Antix and Debian and everything. And having Dolphin on the show for this episode is like great timing, especially
he can't mess up anything.
Yeah,
anything we say, he can correct right here on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's completely a coincidence that I'm here.
Yes, exactly. We did not plan this at all. But we gave him a ton of timing for him. Like we had it. You had at least 45 minutes of head lead time for being on the show. So
that sounds about right.
So we've been in deep interviews for the last few weeks, but we didn't want to miss an opportunity to talk to one of our favorite Debian-based distributions developers, because MX Linux is one of the top Debian-based distributions available,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on the show, Dolphin, and just to is there anything specific you want to talk about, like the biggest news related to MX 19?
Well, the biggest news, I don't know if it's big news. What I consider big news, what other people consider big news, are different things. But one of the expansion of our development team, and in addition to that, contributions from outside the dev team, was at an all-time high for the 19 release.
Nice.
We had people chipping in from all over the place. The bug reports were really good. I think in the release notes, I gave a shout out to the BDL online LUG group on YouTube.
Nice.
Because they ripped us for 2 weeks and gave me a whole list of stuff. And I don't know what it is. Colin over there, I don't know what the heck you're doing down there in Australia, but you find some of the strangest stuff that needs fixed.
It's because they're upside down. The distro,
I guess it's the world's backwards.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
But we got you fixed now. The guy who's a prime dev on the installer is also in Australia. He's in your same time zone, man. So you better watch out. But at any rate, we still have, unlike most other distributions, we kind of chosen a kind of a weird path where we're saying, look, we want to support the Annex Live system because it's awesome. The Annex Live system has some feature expansions, one of which you mentioned your graphics card thing at your I'll touch on that here in a second. The MX Live system, of course, you can run off of a USB stick. This is actually my install for MX19. It's got all my apps on it already because of the persistent stuff. I've got everything. I got KDN Live on here. I got Zoom. I got all my stuff. If I ever nuke my hard drive, I just pop it in. Done. 10 minutes later, I'm back up and running. No problem. We've kept the Annex is a little more involved in the non-system D movement. Okay, they want to hold that stuff. Part of that is because the live system was developed under sysv init, and it works really well under that. The other part is that some of the developers have some problems with system D, and that's fine. I get it. I understand. It's not a political stance for me because MX ships with both. If you're running it on live, it's going to be sysv, but if you install it, you can actually use either one you want. And they're in the boot menu already.
Nice.
This is from the systemd shim project, which Ubuntu started and then quit developing, but because Debian is light years behind in what packages get into the system. It really only hit us recently. Okay. And so we put out the word, guy chipped in, or we filed our first bug bounty. So some donations helped make that happen. And we are now hosting the systemd shim, at least a version that works for us, on our Git repo. And so that's how we're able to do that. So most distributions currently are choosing one or the other. We're kind of still straddling the fence. So if you like to play around with a lot of different things, you still can. About the only thing you can't run out of the box is snaps. But if you boot systemd, you can. It's fine.
Nice.
And we actually, because of wanting to chip in with the Debian and init diversity folks, some changes were made to init strips that make things like Flatpaks work better under Buster. So it was a minor change. It's like 3 lines of code. They just knowing where that 3 lines of code were took a really long time to find. And we flipped it around, and now everybody's all, kumbaya happy, sort of, kind of. They're still fighting over it. Whatever. I'm not. It's on the thing.
Yeah.
It's just had a great development cycle. It was longer than usual. I actually started working on it back in January, trying to make the systemd stuff work out, and that took a really long time to settle. Once that was all settled out, it wasn't too bad. And then we ended up waiting for XFCE 4.14 because, why wouldn't you?
That makes sense. I mean, actually, that's one of the things that's about, like, from the release notes, like, one of the big version updates is the XFCE 4.14. So, like, that's really good, and I that's a good decision to wait for it, because I think that as far as, like, when you ship XFCE as a default DE, right?
It's the only DE that we officially support. There are, with the snapshot technology from Antix and built into MX, people make spins. They make all sorts of spins. There's the last release, the 1718 series had spins for KDE, Budgie, Mate, i3, all from the community. We list them out in a thread and point people where they can download them if they want to play. But the only official DE we support is XFCE.
Okay. Nice. So that makes sense why you want to get the 4.14. Well, I mean, it's a decision.
It happens to be my favorite.
It's not Plasma, but it's still good.
Honestly, from a development cycle, XFCE matches really well in with Debian. It just kind of goes along, and actually they've actually picked up a little bit. So we're keeping an eye on that.
Yeah.
But it's got some neat features. My favorite is the fact that we actually have high DPI support now. Now it's whole number high DPI, because that's what XFCE currently supports.
Right.
So you can do 1 or 2. I did find an interesting bug during development that if you put a 0 in there, you would just completely crash the system and never get it back. I think Sean took care of that. I don't know.
I'm curious what 0
would be. You have to really
be.
Try to put a 0 in there.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the GPU stuff, and I'm really interested to hear what you say, because, to be honest, one of the issues, the only reason I don't run MX, because when I was, as you know, starting my Linux journey, when I found MX, I was like, this is home. This is everything I want. You don't just have a basic Debian install. You have a ton of applications to make people's lives easier that you have custom created in there. And I think a lot of the decisions that you make are perfect, and exactly what I want.
But okay.
The issue that I run into with anything Debian based is it's so old, and in comparison to what is rolling out there. So for people who have older machines and that type of thing, it's always been great. Run Debian, you're going to have a wonderful time. It's going to work. If you're someone like me who goes and AMD releases a new GPU next month, and I'm the first one in line to have it and plug it in, and Mesa's some old version and the kernel's too old and nothing's in there, I can't use it. So did you guys find a workaround for that?
Well, typically what we do, and I'm not exactly sure of the status of the test repo right now, but typically what we do is over time, we will update Mesa. We already have new kernels. You can download a 5.4 kernel right now. Right. If you want to. And with the live USB switcher kernel updater, you can even do it on your USB before you ever install if you really, really want to. Nice. I got a video on it, and I'll be updating my video series here as time allows, but there's been a lot of change in the live system. But a lot of times, how do I do that the first time? Okay, so fine. Once I get in, I can update. Once I get in, I can do the kernel change. How do I get in the first time? So we got it's kind of an experimental feature, but it's a secret feature, and Zeb's used it on an RTX NVIDIA card that wasn't supported by our kernel. or by the Novo driver, rather. We have a boot code, and it's only on the MX and Annex Live systems. I should say Annex Live system because we use that. It's just customized for us. But we have a boot code called nuke equals xorg. Now, that sounds horrible, right? It sounds like you're just going to destroy the universe and not have X when you're done. But actually what it does is we go the other way. Right now, the kernel and everything, the whole boot up chain says, okay, we're going to use the latest drivers we have and try to use those and go. Well, it doesn't work with Novo because on the RTX NVIDIA card, at least the version that's in Debian 4.19, because it doesn't support the card. And so you end up at a console prompt, which is fine. The console, you can install your NVIDIA drivers and go. But you can also use this nuke equals xorg thing. And what it will do, it will force the system to use alternate drivers that may or may not work out right. It worked in Zeb's case. It loads. You're not going to like it, but it gets you to the system. It uses a frame buffer driver if you're booting UEFI, and it uses VESA if you're booting a legacy boot, and then it also prevents the KMS driver from actually loading. I don't know what actually loads. That's above my pay grade as far as the boot chain goes.
Right.
I don't know what actually loads for the video driver, just TTY, I think. But X will run inside with just the frame buffer driver on most of my actually all my laptops, as a matter of fact. So instead of trying to update and keep up with it, we just go backwards, take you back to a known basic condition, and system boots right up.
Interesting.
It's a secret. It's not really documented real well. We've used it in the forums a few times for people that have had trouble. It's kind of a BitJam, if you're watching, that one's for you, because he worked really hard on that, trying to make that system work. And Felix, our German live grub booting guru, nice. Figured out how to do this. So it works. I'm not going to say it's going to work 100% of the time, but I would bet on an unsupported AMD card that it would get you to X, and then you could update all the other stuff. So is it optimal? No, but for a non-rolling distribution, I mean, honestly, how often do we want to update the kernel? I don't know how often does the kernel update on a rolling distribution? I don't even know. I'm Debian. I don't update very often.
It rolls pretty much within the time frame that a new kernel comes out. They come out quite often, I would say.
Yeah, like every month, right? Yeah. Every month and a half.
I think they actually are increasing it, but I'm pretty sure it was every 6 weeks. It might now be every 4 weeks, but I know it's either one of those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for us, and also for Antics too, they don't keep up with Mesa as far as I know, but we do keep up with Antics does a little different. Antics allows you to roll with Debian testing, so that kind of takes care of itself over time. We don't really track testing at all, so we just update stuff in our own test repo, and people can install it from an package installer. So we did have another couple strange features. We actually changed the way the our test repo works so that if you leave it enabled, you're less likely to hose your system in an update.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
So
that's always a good thing.
Well, you try,
likely,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing that been kind of excited about is the installer. Our installer and Antics and MX share the same installer. It's exactly the same installer with a different theme pack attached to it, so for graphics and text and stuff. But that thing, we had some NVRAM stuff real early on. We found out that some of your high-end NV, what do you call the hard drives?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. The NVMe drives. They don't update their partition table information quite as fast as you think they should, right, for a piece of hardware as expensive as they are. And so we actually had to put in about 12 seconds of delay in our installer to let the NVMe devices catch up. Didn't have a problem on spinning media, didn't have a problem on standard SSDs, didn't have a problem on MMC block devices, which is the slowest thing in the universe and what I usually test on, because if it works there, it probably work anywhere else. Nope. NVRAM. And what I think happened is that if you have the NVMe device plugged into a not quite as capable controller on the motherboard, I think there was a mismatch there. Yeah. That took a long time to track up, and actually I was kind of sad Zeb wasn't going to be here, although it didn't mean I get to be here, because Zeb actually helped me test a bunch of stuff, and then of course found 2 more bugs. while he was
You
doing
actually had fixed this for me way back in when NVMe really started hitting the consumer market, and this was probably like MX16 at the
it. Yeah,
time.
probably 15 or 16. I remember talking about that.
And you actually helped me get past getting NVMe to work back then, and we got it fixed, which was really cool because I got to use my NVMe drive, and now they're becoming pretty standard across the board. I was just interested real quick. One of the frustrations I have, and I don't know who the blame here is, but I feel like it's a miss in the Linux market and want to get your take. So recently it was announced that AMD surpassed NVIDIA in sales for their GPUs. And this is a big deal because everybody to this point has basically been saying, and look, it's justified. AMD's GPUs, AMD's CPUs in the prior generations were not anything to talk about, and NVIDIA dominated the market. And Linux, a lot of the big distros kind of bended to that, right? They put the proprietary drivers in. Now they're making it so that it practically installs itself as soon as you put the USB drive in, and everybody's bending to NVIDIA, but they seem to be missing the mark entirely when it comes to AMD. Now, Intel's about to release their third-party GPU, and now you're going to have, again, another company that releases their drivers in Mesa and in the kernel. And so it's kind of an interesting thing because I don't see anybody really gearing up for this. For instance, the 5700 XT still doesn't work in Ubuntu's latest version. Nobody is really paying attention here. And I'm just wondering what your thought is on how can we fix this issue in Linux? Because there's going to be a lot of AMD people who aren't going to have a good time, much like at my LUG event, trying to run Linux in AMD. Or Linux and Intel in next year.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing, right? The AMD's drivers are in the kernel. All their stuff's in Mesa. But why do we have to keep bumping? Why can't we put the drivers in the current LTS kernel instead of just keep bumping the kernel version up every time we add an AMD driver? Right. Let's backport them back to 4.19. That's the current LTS.
Interesting.
There might be another one by now. I don't remember, but I know 4.19 is an LTS because that's why we stuck with it on MX. It actually just happened to coincide with Debian using it. Say what you want about NVIDIA, and trust me, I take care of the NVIDIA installer tool for MX and Annex. I hate it. Okay, it is horrible. But what's worse is when someone boots up their computer with the $600 NVIDIA card that's in it, and Nouveau can't take care of it anymore.
Right.
I mean, we're seeing right now Nouveau is not keeping up with the card releases. So and I'm sure, and I don't know Ubuntu actually said this, but I'm sure that's why they're installing. They have the drivers installed on their ISO by default. Is because there are cards Nouveau doesn't support anymore. Doesn't support yet, I should say. So they have the same problem. But NVIDIA, because they're outside the source tree, the kernel tree, they don't depend on the kernel. They don't depend on they can release drivers whenever they want. Yep. So that part's good for users. The bad part is that it's a convoluted mess for everybody else to deal with.
And
that's why you have an NVIDIA tool. That's why there are NVIDIA tools for everywhere, because you need them, because it's hard to do. It's not hard to install AMD anymore. Now, we used to have tools for AMD back when it was the FGLRX, blah, 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 whatever that the driver was called. And actually, the tool we shipped to do our NVIDIA actually did them both. Because it originally started life as Solid XK's device manager. It just stripped all the stuff we didn't need out of it, and when they don't use it anymore, so we just kind of adopted it. But it's a strange problem because I have AMD parts in the room. My next computer is going to have AMD parts, and I'm going to have this problem.
I love that you're going to have this problem because that means you'll fix it.
Well, naturally. And we do buy new hardware on the MX project for somebody once or twice a year. So usually they run into something and then we end up importing stuff back. But the fact that all this stuff goes in, it doesn't come back to 4.19. It ends up in 5.3 or 5.4.
Right.
I mean, at some point you have to decide, hey, why not backport this stuff into the current LTS kernels? That might make a lot of more people happy and speed up deployment of this stuff. Because even Debian updates their kernel, man. Okay, it'll update 2 or 3 times over the life cycle of the Debian of the current release. So I don't know. That's the option, but
kind of like a hardware enablement stack feature is what you're talking about. But even those come out so infrequently in comparison to the hardware being released lately, and that's kind of one of the issues. But I agree with you. I think there's a solution here. I think a lot of people have been stuck on, because that's what's been popular, the NVIDIA train here. But Intel and AMD are now, AMD specifically is outsold NVIDIA. You're going to see a lot of people, all the laptops coming out now are having AMD Ryzen options. See a lot of people trying to use Linux with this, and this is our one open source hardware partner, and the stuff doesn't work. And that doesn't really make a great example, I think, for Linux, right? And
I don't argue with that, but I'm also going to say that most people, I'm not going to use the generic most people, because that bugs the bejesus out of me. When people say most people or most users, I have learned, if nothing else, in this time as quote unquote lead dev for MX, I don't even think that's an official title, but we'll use it. And I have learned that users are wonderful, magical people who will never do what you expect them to do, no matter what skill level they have. Okay, the brand new user will cut and paste that command from the Arch Wiki right into your system, and it doesn't matter if it works or not, and it's your fault if it doesn't work. Okay. Yes. I forgot where I was going with that, to be honest with you.
Are you going to say that I'm going to mess up my system by posting a bunch of stuff anyways? Because you would be correct.
I'm just saying, most people don't swap their video cards all that often.
Yeah.
They're expensive. You take the thing out, you put it in. Maybe you solve this problem once. And just one more shout out for the Annex Live system, where you can set that up on whatever the fix you need to have on your USB, and then you're set for your own personal system from then on out. But yeah, I know. I think about every time I hear you talk about this issue on DL, I want to shout at the radio. We have the DKMS build system. We could build drivers outside the kernel, and add them. And it's not even just outside the source tree stuff or outside open source stuff. VirtualBox open source drivers build this way with DKMS. Okay, Broadcom's a bad example, but they do the same thing. There's a handful of others.
I appreciate getting your insight, because I don't think there's a magic bullet here, but there has to be a solution, and I want Linux to always be forward thinking and figuring out, okay, we have this problem. And before, I heard a lot of developers, well, it's just AMD, and that now matters a lot more because they're selling like crazy, and maybe people don't upgrade their GPU all the time, but everybody's going through cycles at various times, meaning they don't follow. When I upgrade my hardware, I'm not looking for, okay, when's the next hardware enablement stack coming out, and then I'll buy it. Like, I'm just buying it because I now have the funds and I'm going to go purchase my machine. You have all these people cycling in, and I think it's something we have to resolve. It's embarrassing, in some ways, when you have a whole group of people together and we can't get a single Linux distro period to run hardware that's been out there for 5 months. It's, it's frustrating. It could be AMD's fault. It could be Linux fault. I don't really care whose fault it is. I just want people to start talking and fix it. But I think getting the hardware into the developers' hands is an important thing. But look, MX, going back to it, incredible distribution. I love the fact that you have some AMD hardware now, and we'll start playing with it, because that means all my AMD stuff is probably going to be working in there very soon.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know. We had a lot of changes, a lot of updates, and we've had a tremendous response so far for us.
I just love hearing you have more developers coming in. I mean, that's that's
right? Been huge, and not only just developers. We've got new translation staff, which I include in the development team. The translations team, the localizations team. We've got a new guy who's kind of coming in to help take some of the load off of the current team, and then we've got of course, the new guys with the installer and the forum help. Just having the new guys in the forum who are knowledgeable. You'll probably see a couple of names. We got a new title, qualified MX guide or something like that.
Nice.
So because we can't pay you, so we're going to promote you with titles. They've been huge because we've been able to work, and they're taking care of some of the basic support questions in the forum, and it's just been fantastic. I've just been thrilled to death. We had to upgrade the server to get numbered. With since release, we're 20,000 a day or something like that, which was a lot more than in the past. But the problem isn't that number. The problem is that 2,000 of them are on at the same time.
Now, it's weird because I just checked your forums and I don't have that title yet. Now, my last 10 comments were, have you tried rebooting? But I feel like that is very helpful. All right. Fine.
Have you tried rebooting? Okay. That's good.
You should search the forum for it. That's his other comments.
I'm going to find it now, and I'm going to report every one of those.
Report.
That's a Windows fix, isn't it?
Oh, darn it, Bo. Yeah, you're right.
It's a Windows fix, but you know what? Sometimes it's right. Even in the Linux world, it's easier to restart than to go through all the mod programs.
This is true.
There is one thing I see in our notes. We had a new app, and I actually edited out our release announcement. There's an app called MX Alerts that was supposed to send messages if we needed to. We actually took that off. We didn't deploy that on final. It's in the repository. People can install it if they want to. We kind of paused development on that one. We were trying to do it in a way that wasn't calling home. People wouldn't feel like it was calling home all the time, and it wasn't. But in doing so, I think we kind of made it maybe not as useful because it takes a long time to check for a message. So
right.
we're gonna look at that one later. It works, and if we ever have a problem, we'll send one out. But no one's going to get it because no one has the app. So
very cool.
Go 2 seconds, Ryan.
All right, this week in the news, and I'm so happy you're here, Bo, to join us for this because there's some interesting things that I've found, and we are huge fans of Firefox, and Firefox 70 and 70.0.1 have been released, which 70.0.1 released shortly after with just some bug fixes and little bit of improvements from 70. But there's some great things in here in Firefox. You get social tracking protection now, which blocks cookies from site tracking like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. This is now standard in their enhanced protection suite. So to me, one of the reasons I use Firefox is the privacy enhancements that they have, the privacy protection they have, and the greatest feature, I think, of any browser out there, which is the container tabs, which is just incredible.
Yep.
So
yeah, this is something I really do like, and I think it's a great improvement. Yep. We all need protection from the intrusive tracking of our digital life from all these corporations and stuff. I mean, I hate it. Really, I do less web browsing than I used to, just because of the tracking software, and it's indiscriminatory. I mean, you go to Joe Blow's website and he's got a tracking cookie on there for Facebook, which I don't have a Facebook account, thoroughly hate Facebook, but yet I'm being tracked by Facebook. And so, right now, the way browsers are, I don't have any control over that except for like black holing Facebook in my host file or something, which really I shouldn't have to do.
Right. No, I absolutely agree with you. And the more you kind of dive into how far these companies have gone to get your information and the fingerprinting, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And thankfully, companies like Mozilla are out here trying to put a stop to it, and in a lot of ways shooting themselves in the foot, because there's a lot of ad revenue that they're passing up. There's a lot of partnership potential with these companies that they're passing up, which mean big dollars for them. And they're basically, not deploying them for the sake of the users here. So to me, that is one of the reasons why Firefox is the best browser option for people to use. They also have Firefox Lockwise, which has received some improvements. This tool lets you access the passwords that you saved in Firefox from an app. Personally, I'm just a big fan of Bitwarden and utilizing that. But if you want to use Firefox, I guess, as your password manager, you have that ability, and they've added things like be able to create, update, and delete logins across, which will feed across all your devices when you do so. Integration of breach alerts and complex password generation, which are key features to any good password manager. They've also updated their core engine components for faster browsing, and lots of bug fixes out there. But there was one thing, Bo, that caught my attention this week, and I found this on a Reddit post. And I was a little surprised because we talk about Mozilla being definitely one of the most secure and privacy protecting browsers out there. There was a bug, basically a vulnerability, a phishing attack potential And we'll have a link in the show notes of where you can take a look at this. But it's been out there for 3 years, this particular phishing attack. And Chrome, Internet Explorer, Brave, and every browser out there that I checked has patched this problem. But Firefox has not after 3 years of the issue being reported. The phishing attack basically makes users believe they are on a website like apple.com. And unlike other phishing attacks where normally what I've seen people tell individuals is, hey, if you click a link, make sure you go into the URL feed and check, because the link may say apple.com, but when you click on it and you go, you'll see, Bob's fake website. Won't really say that, but something that's not apple.com up there in the URL, or you can inspect the page and see that it's indeed not apple.com. But in this case, it uses basically some flaw in the Punycode language translation. And if you click that link that says apple.com, and then you go into your URL or inspect the page, it will say apple.com up in the URL field. It is a good phishing hack, basically, to make people think they're on the official site. 3 years, they haven't patched this. How big of an issue is this, Bo?
Well, this is a really hard thing to fix, because what it is there's so many languages, and we all use different characters for different things in different languages. I'm Cherokee, and we have our own symbol area. We have our own ISO, type of font that's out there, and this is, affected by this. Our A is different from an English A. So this is a problem with that. The thing about any kind of phishing attack is anytime you get a link, like in an email or something, don't click it. Don't be lazy, but go pull up your browser, whip out your keyboard, and type the address in there. If you want to go to apple.com, type apple.com and go there, because that way you absolutely are sure. Because, if there is esoteric ways of hacking a keyboard. But the thing is somebody's already hacked your keyboard. They've already got your system. So, the keyboard doesn't matter anymore. But the one thing you can be sure of, normally on a system is when you type apple.com, you're going to go to apple.com and not something using a variant language to where it just appears to be apple.com. I just don't click links. I get a link in an email, I look at it, I pull up the browser, and I type where I want to go in there.
Very nice. Yeah. I think that's good advice in general for everybody. I'm surprised by this, Michael. I know you're a huge fan of Firefox, and rightly so. You've been a huge proponent of it. What's the deal here, man?
I don't know why they're taking so long to fix it, and I understand that there's an issue with it. It's a very esoteric issue, and it is definitely going to be a situation where you're basically clicking spam links, and if you're going to websites that is, sharing spam links, so it's not a common thing to happen, and it does require the domain to be a specific not specific language, but it has to be from a single particular language that has foreign character set stuff. And I'm curious, because I didn't have the time to check to see if this thing I just thought of at the moment was affecting it or not. But if you go to the website, it has it in the address bar that it's the correct one, even though it's not. But when you hover over a link on a website, does it show the Punycode language of being like the right language, or does it show the apple.com thing, for example? So I'm curious, what that would do. But I don't really know. What's interesting
is it shows the Punycode for just a second, because I just tested it for just a second, and then it switches to apple.com. So if you were paying attention when you opened a link, you can see that.
Right, but when you hover over the link in the bottom left, it shows you what it's going to go to, and you can get it. I don't think that it would change that, more than likely. It might. If it does change it, then that's unfortunate as well, and that's probably even a significant.
It does change it. If I just highlight the link, it says https apple.com.
Okay, so yeah, then it's an issue that requires you to know that that's a problem. And that's unfortunate because that would be, on a website, whether you click it on another, in an email or something, because some email clients don't even show you they don't allow you to hover over the link and show you what that is. You have to click it to do it, or right click it and look in your clipboard and see what it is. That's a problematic issue that they need to fix. And I have no idea why they haven't fixed it if they've been aware of it for that long. So
well,
I
they
don't
do
know.
have open meetings because I've channeled my inner Noah here. And one of the things Noah says anytime anybody gives feedback on what Firefox could do is they have their meetings are open for anybody to attend. So for those of you who are willing to attend and things, we'll have the link in our show notes. Bring this forward to Mozilla. Maybe it's one of those things where it was an issue that was going to get fixed and then it just got was forgotten about.
Fell through the cracks or something.
Yeah, fell through the cracks. So hopefully they get that patched quickly.
That is so. I'm sorry, I was just reading it. It is so bizarre.
Yeah,
just the character.
And when you test it, it works every time in Firefox.
It does work.
Yeah.
And what it is your browser is doing the automatic translation. Maybe your browser should be affixed to the language, like my laptop set up to be English, American English. Maybe instead of trying to do auto translation. And that's one thing bad about systems, and that's put attack vectors in there is we try to automate too many things that really don't need to be automated.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, they shouldn't.
Why do I need a website translated to Arabic? I can't read Arabic,
Right.
so I don't need any trans. And I know part of that was saying they were using, you use Arabic letters, but then you register a fake website and it comes out apple.com.
Yeah, that's weird because, the solution to me would be why are you translating the domains at all? What's the point of that? Why is a domain, because a domain should never be translated because it's a specific name to that particular, IP. So, what is the point of translating that? So, just stop doing that and that should fix it.
Yeah, well, it's for the reader's benefit. I meant, if you speak Arabic, you type Arabic in the address bar, but if you look at it in Unicode, it just looks like random characters. But if it's translated, if you're using an Arabic keyboard, it makes perfect sense if you're speaking Arabic.
Yeah, but if they're speaking Arabic, they should be able to read the Arabic text. Or if they're
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you're speaking Arabic and your browser should only read and translate Arabic, it shouldn't do an automatic translation in the of the website. It just should read in Arabic language if your computer's set to run on Arabic.
That's interesting. So I still would say they shouldn't do domains at all, because if they're going to type in English domain or expecting to go to English domain, they should they should get that domain.
I said,
so
the trick is you just use your keyboard. You can be 99.9999% sure that whatever you type on your keyboard is going to end up in that address bar.
Unless Bo has been hired to hack you.
Yeah, unless I got my little bash bunny and I've cruised by your desk and I've rubber duckied your keyboard.
Yeah.
But
every time I talk to you, Bo, I feel like I need to get my tinfoil hat out.
One thing I would like to say about online password things that keep your passwords online. I trust Firefox to a reasonable amount, but would you trust a random developer at Firefox with your house keys?
No.
But
then why are you trusting them with your passwords?
Well, there's a difference between. I agree with that, but I would also say that the new Lockwise thing is a better structure than their old version, because the older way they did passwords was basically plain text, like every browser did. So now that they're implementing a genuine password manager that has encryption, at that point, I'm like, okay, you're making progress here, so that's good. But at the same time,
it's progress, and it is better. And because you're right, back in the old days, it was just kept in plain text on your local drive.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
And if you knew where that file was, you could go get, all the password, your banking passwords.
Right. So look, this is
something I tell people all the time. Never, never, never save your password to your banking. Never. Remember that and make it really long.
Yeah.
You know,
Use
that's one thing
the
I don't
sentence
keep is
structure,
I don't have any links in my bookmarks for my banking websites, and all of my banking passwords are up here. I don't even write, because I deal with so many passwords, I do write them down and hide them and got them locked up and stuff. But, my
my
banking
password to
stuff,
my bank is, if you mess with me, I'm going to call my friend Bo. And it's a really long password, but I also think it's a threat to them at the same time.
Exactly.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, my password is Sig Sauer 1911.
6.
All right, so let's move on to the next one.
Just real quick time check. We're at 2:43. Dolphin has to leave at 3, so we've got less than 20 minutes to hit the rest of these stories.
I can stretch out a little bit.
I can cut one of the gaming stories, like the Steam one, or we can cut the GSM one. The Steam one might be more interesting.
I think the Steam is more interesting because that's
okay. So I'm going to cut the GSM one, and that way we should be able to get through the whole spiel
should
here.
Be good.
And I will do this one then, and we're good.
All right, cool. So up next in the show, we wanted to talk about, discuss, have a big discussion topic. And we think that because of all the stuff that's been happening with various different VPNs, like NordVPN, we wanted to have a discussion about VPNs and do you need one? So there's no shortage of VPN companies that are being advertised across the web and like YouTube and all this stuff.
They reach out to us about 7 times a week asking if they can sponsor, but it is probably the scariest type of thing to allow to sponsor the show.
It's one of those things where we want to have a VPN that we can trust to have us be a sponsor, but then it's like, but can we trust them? Because we don't really know. But the question is, do you need a VPN to be safe on the internet?
So, Bo, I can't think of a more perfect person than you to answer this question. I think the first thing that we would bring up is there's a lot of VPNs that sell snake oil, and a lot of their marketing is snake oil of, hey, once you have this VPN, you could bank in the middle of a Wi-Fi in your hotel and you're perfectly safe. And people seem to believe that. But there's also another mindset of individuals out there saying VPNs are dead. Nobody needs them anymore because now we have HTTPS. And so you already have an encrypted connection between you and your bank. There's no purpose to have a VPN unless you're, for instance, trying to get around, censorship issues from governments and that type of thing. But from a security standpoint, a privacy standpoint, there's no need for a VPN. What are your thoughts?
Well, after reading the Reddit thread said that a VPN is like a locked door. Well, no, it's not a locked door. Firewalls are locked doors. The firewall that's, between you and the public world, that is your locked door. And so that's what you really need to be concerned about keeping secure. VPNs are like a tunnel coming out of the basement and coming out down the street. It's still an exit point from your house, but it's tunneled. And VPNs, they are good. Well, I'll tell you the instance. I have a VPN server on DigitalOcean, by the way.
Nice.
But what I use that for is like the good part about using a VPN is like when you go to a coffee shop, because I can sit in a coffee shop and fire up Etherate, which is a wonderful little program. It runs on Linux. And I can sit there and this is something about people go, oh, well, you don't need a VPN tunnel because we have HTTPS. Well, I can sit in that coffee shop and I can tell that you're going to gmail.com. I can't see your email, but but passively, I can sit there and tell that you're going to gmail.com. And by watching the throughput of your connection to Gmail, I can tell whether you're just reading an email or whether you're downloading a file because I can see the throughput on that. And for VPNs, that's a good thing. That's what I use my VPN for, is like when I'm in Starbucks or a coffee shop and I want a secure connection, or like when I'm staying in a hotel and I'm using a hotel Wi-Fi. Because also hotel Wi-Fi's, they're very dangerous. And that's where I tell people to use VPN connections. Because what you're doing is like with my VPN connection, what the outside world sees is it looks like I'm coming out of New York City. And, that IP, if you geolocate that IP, it looks like that I'm coming from New York City.
Right.
If I'm going to Facebook, especially if you use the VPN tunnel all the time, Facebook's just going to log your address that, they're not going to be able to geolocate you in Georgia, but still they're going to be able to track you by IP number because you're still coming out of the same VPN server. So that's just your public address. So that's still trackable, especially because like Nord or some other VPN service, they don't randomly change their public address. So if you use that every day for your connection, that's just your outside address.
Interesting. So I've
and
seen
something
this...
else that people don't do when they set up VPN services is they'll still hard code their laptops DNS to use Google DNS 8.8.8.8. Well, it doesn't matter your traffic's going through the VPN tunnel, and yes, it's protected. You've just let Google know every site you've went to because they track your DNS lookups. And if you're going to, hillbillyheaven.com, Google's going to know it because that you did a DNS lookup. It's not going to be as accurate as, watching the direct stream and seeing what pages you're going to. But HTTPS it doesn't encrypt where you're going. It encrypts the data flow back and forth from that site, but going to that site is still traceable and trackable.
Well, let me ask you this. You did something really cool at one of our LUG events. You showed a hack, and we got permission from the coffee shop owner to do this, where we had our laptop set up in a row at the coffee shop, and all of us using Linux. And you set up this hack where all of a sudden all of our computers' Wi-Fi went out and came back up, and you basically had spoofed the coffee shop's Wi-Fi. So we
DDoS attack.
Yeah, we reconnected to your fake Wi-Fi card. So now all of our traffic was going across your computer. So in that case, if I had a VPN, would you been able to do anything with that as opposed to...
Well, if you had connected, let's say I ran the DAuth attack, and what that does is it shuts down your connection, and then you re-authenticate even with WPA2. That hash goes back to the AP point. Well, what that DAuth attack does is it captures that hash. Then I can decrypt the thing, and now I got your Wi-Fi password.
Wow.
But also using what they call an evil twin attack, where I deauth you, and now you connect to my evil twin AP point, and now I can watch your traffic go through. If you're using a VPN, if you reset your VPN, even going through that evil twin, I can't see your data. I can see where you're going, but I can't. No, really, I can't even see where. Only thing I see is the VPN server. So yes, VPNs, that's one reason why I brought that up about motels, because depending on the motel, you don't know whether somebody's running an evil twin AP point in a motel because it's a mesh network. It's not like there's one AP point in a hotel. There's 20. Well, if I fire up 21, how do you know?
Yep.
Right.
And what's so interesting about that hack you did is we were connected to, I believe it was called Barrel House Coffee. That was the Wi-Fi access point name for it. And then again, the connection dropped for just a second and says you reconnected to Barrel House Coffee. So everyone just thinks everything's fine and continues working.
They just think it was some
a blip.
Yeah, just a blip. Oh, well, it disconnected. Ain't no problem. Oh, it connected back. There we go. And that's the one beauty. Now that would kill your VPN tunnel, but that's one beauty about the VPN is you go, oh, well, I connected back my VPN. Well, it even going through that evil twin router, that VPN, that IPsec tunnel is going to protect your data.
Nice. Love it. Thank you, Bo.
But it's not, one thing, it doesn't make you anonymous. If you want to be anonymous, you can use a VPN tunnel and then use Tor on top of that. But it was like earlier I said, all your traffic's coming out of an external IP address.
Right. So it's still, Tor, especially if you're doing it over the same VPN over and over.
Yeah, over and over again. Where Tor does randomly change your external IP to where it will hide you on the internet.
Okay. Yep. So there's also we got a question in the chat. Do you think it'd be a good idea to use a VPN at home So, for example, like with your ISP, or if you change it to Google, or Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1.
If you're using like AT&T or Comcast and you're worried about their tracking, because AT&T, I know for a fact, AT&T and Comcast sell everything you look at. They sell your traffic to a third party. I mean, it's just a matter of money, and you can buy that traffic. I can know exactly, for $10,000, I can know what what your traffic is, Michael. If you're with AT&T, I can buy it.
Michael just canceled his account.
I don't use either one of those, so I'm good for that.
But by using a VPN, using a VPN tunnel at home, yes, then you can hide your traffic from Comcast or AT&T.
Right.
Unless you're using their DNS, and then they're going to track you by DNS.
Gotcha.
One thing I'd use is here at my house is I have a Bind 9 server set up on a Raspberry Pi that does DNS forwarding. So all the lookups it doesn't use the ISP's lookup. It goes to the actual root servers and pulls down DNS lookups from the root servers and then caches it on that little Pi. And I turn my caching up to several days. That way, like going to my bank website, it keeps that data, that lookup, in that one little Pi. But also, like on that Raspberry Pi, my logging goes to dev null. I keep all my log files on that little box in dev null.
Yeah,
dev null is a great place to keep your log files.
the perfect place. Yeah,
as long as you don't need to find them later.
That's true. They're really hard to grep after you keep them.
So
that is so funny that's the scenario you brought up, Bo. And I got to tell you, I've learned a lot just sitting here this 5 minutes listening to this. We have been over at MX have been putting sysv init scripts in for VPN services that don't provide them anymore. And so we get these VPN questions occasionally. And the guy was doing exactly what you just said. He was all VPN'd out, all the way out to his server, and then he was using Google's DNS. And I was like, well, why you bothering at that point?
And another thing about, outside, VPN services, like I said, I have my own VPN server. It costs me $10. Well, I use it for other things, but it costs me $10 a month at DigitalOcean. But it's mine. I manage that box. I can go in that box and look at the logs. I know where the CA certificates are and stuff. That's my little box. If I think it's been compromised, I can blow it away and build me a new one.
Love it.
It goes back to what I was talking about earlier about Firefox. Would you trust some random guy, some systems admin at Nord? Would you get trusted with your house keys?
No, definitely not Nord. No.
Yeah.
Guaranteed not Nord.
Okay. Then why are you trusting them with your banking data?
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. It's especially like the idea of like all these different services that we don't really know how like there's even sometimes where there was this I was reading this article. They were digging deep into different VPNs, and they even found out that some of them call themselves no logging, but they refer to a specific type of log where they keep other logs. And it's like, yes, you're not keeping that particular log, but that doesn't mean, just because no logging means all logs, but they're trying to dance around the issue. And so that was pretty interesting. But Nord was one of those situations where everybody was talking about Nord and they're promoting it, like YouTubers and podcasters are always talking about Nord. And then Nord gets hacked and then doesn't tell anyone for a year and a half. It's like, what?
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of controversy around the Nord thing. I hear some people making excuses for it one way or another, but the only outside VPN that I've personally trusted has been private internet access, just because they've had court cases on their logging and have proven to not, in fact, log, because the government said, hey, give us logs, and we demand it. And they're like, well, here's our servers. Good luck. We don't have any. So I kind of trust somewhat in there.
Yeah.
But
it seems that they do use DevNull.
Yeah, they use null to store it. So, I mean,
it's like I don't really, it's not a matter of whether I trust DigitalOcean or not, because the truth of the matter is I like DigitalOcean. I do think they're secure, but I'm not going to trust them with my house key.
Right.
But the thing I trust is I can build that Linux machine. I can harden that Linux machine. And that way I know through my own level of trust in myself that machine's secure.
That's a good point. Well, thank you for clarifying that, Bo. It was a perfect time for you to join in. I saw everyone asking the question in the Reddit forum, and there were so many different answers, but I've learned a ton. So thank you.
Well, the thing to always remember is all networks are hostile.
Yep. That doesn't make me feel better, but I
except
agree with what you're saying.
Except for the Destination Linux network.
Well done,
smooth.
Michael. Well done.
I'm on
Smooth
here.
operating.
I'm on here, ain't I?
Yeah,
exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
Uh-oh.
So it's hostile now.
Wait a minute. Let me get this other laptop going.
It's about to be hostile.
All right. Go 2 seconds.
So we've skipped the gaming section for multiple episodes, and we've started to receive complaints. Where is our gaming section? We want it back. So we have brought it back. It's just been chaos with all of the different interviews and things, and the shows have run long. So we apologize for our fellow gamers out there. We have a good story for you. It is really based on Steam just continuing to get cooler. If you've logged into Steam lately, you may have noticed that they have been very busy overhauling the look and feel, as well as adding a plethora of features to Steam. Now, some of the enhancements include sorting games into dynamic collections, customizable homepage, new event system, better looking layout and search abilities. All cool things, not earth shattering, but all cool. But one feature I really like is the new remote play feature. So now you can invite Steam friends to join your local co-op, local multiplayer, or shared split screen game online. So what this means is there are games out there where locally you can do like a split screen. If any of you are old school gamers, you might remember the game 007, where you probably had 4 or 5 of your friends and everybody had a little box. So you can split screen these games, but they don't have servers. The game companies don't pay for servers to be online full time. And so if you wanted to play with your friend who lives in another state or another country or whatnot, you can't play that game because it doesn't have a server for everybody to connect to play. But with remote play, Steam is, and it's in beta, is trying to fix that, which would basically allow you to take that game that doesn't have a server and still allow you to play that game as if they were sitting there next to you in your office or on the couch playing a game. So I think this is a really cool feature and something we could potentially utilize for November
9th.
Is it November 9th that we are doing a game night with the whole community out there. So you're going to have Jason Evangelo and Zeb playing some games. Then they're going to hand it off to some of the other folks on Destination Linux Network, likely me and Michael. And then somebody said they were going to try to play Rocket League against Michael and do like a US versus UK thing. And I laughed because that means we automatically win because Michael's like Diamond or something rated
Champ
in
3.
Rocket League. Champ 3. Okay. So yeah, but this is really a really cool feature by Steam. Once again, just adding cool things that Linux folk can use immediately.
Yeah,
I think this is fantastic. I as a father too, and we play a lot of the thumb smasher games on the TV.
Yeah.
And now my kids are getting bigger, and one's a couple 3 hours away at college. I think this would be really cool for game night when we could all play. Maybe me and the youngest are still here mashing our buttons on the TV, and he's off doing the same game. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's going to be a great feature. I'm not much of a gamer, but I would use that.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Though actually, one of the cool things about that particular feature is that it's only one person needs to have that particular game, and someone can just they essentially stream the inputs and the video or the imaging to the player who's remote, and they can just play so that the person who's local will be able to just have the input being sent back to them. And that way you could have, like you and your kid that's there would be able to, be able to use the thing directly without having to have the same game, with the other son and stuff, everything. So like there's so many cool things about that particular release. And I actually like the latest the update for this. It's not even a beta, it's just a regular out now. They've cleaned up the way that the searching works and the way the layouts work, and they have an option where you can just hide all the games that are not Linux based. So which is, the best one of my favorite features, because it used to be like you could go in and check down a thing and you could say, okay, I want to have it this particular could drop down and then you could show it. But this way you could just have it like a toggle, have it automatically. So I like that. But the remote play is just fantastic. So we need to try that for the stream for sure.
Definitely.
Go 2 seconds.
This week's software spotlight is Nmap. It's an easy-to-use network scanner that lets you discover hosts and services running on your computer. One example of where an everyday user can utilize Nmap is this command. And we'll have it in the show notes, but it's Nmap and then TAC S, capital T, space TAC O, and local host. And this will show all of the open ports that are out there on your computer. So, Bo, you talk about making sure that you reduce the amount of attack vectors that you have on your machine. Open ports are a hacker's dream. So you may see things like your typical ports open there, which your 631 TCP for printer or 9050 for your Tor browser, for instance. However, you may also see some ports open that you forgot you opened because you're working on some project and needed to close them. So Nmap can be found in the repositories for most every distro out there. Do you use this tool, Bo?
This is my favorite tool. Nmap is the Swiss Army knife of network diagnostic. I've been using Nmap since version 1 or something. I've used it in every job I've had. It's even a great tool for a systems admin. When I was a systems admin, I use it daily and doing tech support. When I ran a tech support center, all our people had Nmap. That's what they use to check all the web servers down. First thing you do is go to Nmap, check to see if port 80 is functioning and talking back. It's also got on a Linux machine, it's got a scripting function. And your scripts can be found in /user/share/nmap/scripts. It's got various scripts. Now, these scripts, some of them are hacking tools, I guess you could say. But
right.
The good thing about it is like it's got a SMB versioning script in there. And so what that'll do is it'll hit a Windows box and it'll give you the SMB information off the machine. It'll tell you what type of machine, what version it is, if it's like Windows 10 or Server 2012, and whether it's running like SMB v2. And this is not only good information when you're trying to crack a box, this is good information when you're trying to troubleshoot an SMB connection from a machine.
Very cool.
And it's my go-to tool. I must use that, especially in pen testing. I must use Nmap 20 times a night. And most of your big scan engines like Nexpose and Qualsys and all these major players, really Nmap is their base scanner.
Interesting. So yeah, this is something I've been playing with just recently, but you've given me some ideas out there how I can get more proficient with it. So I appreciate that.
But yeah, it's the go. Oh, and another thing, if you're not used to working at the command line, there's a really nice GUI interface for it called ZenMap, ZenMap. And the one thing I really love about ZenMap, when I first started using Nmap and I was on a Windows machine and I loaded ZenMap, with ZenMap, you can go in there and click the buttons on what kind of scans you want to run. And it's basically, like a Windows push button thing.
Right.
But the thing that I really love about it is it also writes the scripting out in a little dialog box. So you learn what the flag. Yeah, so you learn what the flags are.
Very
like
nice.
TAC small s large T. That's a TCP connect. Well, if you're using ZenMap, you go, I want to run a TCP connect scan. So you click the TCP connect button, but you see it pop up in this dialog box, TAC S capital T. And so that's how I learn flags. No, I don't use ZenMap anymore because I've used Nmap for so long and it is faster at the command line. But that is how I learned about the flags.
Nice.
Was using ZenMap and watching that little dialog box and learning that. And that's what taught me how to use the flags.
Yeah, that's actually...
You got our software spotlight and our tip and trick.
Yeah, there we go. Actually, we could leave it like that.
Yeah, because Dolphin's out of time. We're already 7 minutes past, so we got to close up.
All right. So,
Thank you.
yep. So, go on outro 2 seconds.
So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love our patrons. So we just want to give a special shout out to all of you for your support. We do a live show for patrons. So come on and join us if you want to be a part of the show. You can join for just $1, and that's darn near free. We also have several new tiers out there with additional perks to check out.
And speaking of support, become a part of the community by going to destinationlinux.network and joining our forums and our new Mumble server. We have Linux for everyone, DOS Geeks, This Week on Linux, the Ask Noah Show, Tux Digital, ZD Boss, and new contacts coming to the DLM Extend, which will be after the show podcast, diving into topics we cover on our shows and providing different perspectives we think that you're going to love. A DLN game night is also in the works so that we get all the show's contents and information by heading to destinationlinux.network.
And please get back to us and let us know what you think. If you have any burning questions, we have numerous methods for you to contact us. So send your emails to comments@destinationlinux.org. We have our Telegram group, Discord, Discourse, Twitter, Mastodon, everything you can think of out there. If you want to reach us, it is available there for you. But we love hearing from you, the community. So comments@destinationlinux.org.
Yeah. And is it mxlinux.org or mx-linux.org? I can't remember.
You're on mute, Dolphin. It's mxlinux.org.
Okay, cool.
mxlinux.org. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And if you want more contact from us, the fun doesn't stop here. We also have our own channels, as well as some. We got guests here, so stay tuned for that. We're going to get to those sections as well. So if you want to check out Ryan's content, go to youtube.com/DOSGeek, where he fills your brains on hardware, software, and all things Linux. You can check out my content at tuxdigital.com, where I do an in-depth weekly Linux news podcast called This Week in Linux, and other Linux-related content. You can check out Zeb and Noah's content. We'll have links for those in the show notes. But be sure to check out Bo Weaver's books. You can check out his books, Kali Linux 2, Windows Penetration Testing, A Survival Guide, and many more. And you can go to boweaver.com to find out more about that. You can check
www.boweaver.com.
There we go. www.
Make sure you type.
No wildcards in my DNS.
Okay.
Make sure you type that name too. Don't just click on a link.
Don't just click it. You got to type it in. www or 6u.boweaver.com. And check out Dolphin's mxlinux.org. You can check out the latest release of MX Linux 19 there. And everybody have a great week. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We did it. Another show.
Hey.
Dolphin, thank you so much for jumping in last minute.
Hey,
Bo.
thanks for thinking of it. It was fun. You guys make it look easy. It is not easy.
Yeah, y'all do.
The edited show comes out so nice compared to what happens in between, isn't it?
I think you were trying to compliment us on our way of doing it even live, right? But yeah, we edited.
You still made it look easy. Even if you could almost run that. That's just. I'm only blowing a little bit of smoke, but it was good.
Only a little bit.
It was the perfect combination of last minute hosts. So thank you.
Yes,
guys.
that was fantastic. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Glad to do it.
All right. I know, Dolphin, you got to run. So thank you. Thanks for hanging out extra time. Sorry we went over a little bit.
Oh, no, that's fine. I actually did some scout stuff prep in the half an hour I had to. I should have been reading notes. I got ready for the scout meeting, so I'm okay.
It worked perfect. Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, patrons, you can turn on your cameras if you want. Ask any questions. Hang out with us.
One of the things that I wanted to do was, like, when we were doing the tip, like, the tip was actually good. I like that. We switched it in that. But I was going to just make it a plug for private internet access and just say, like, use our affiliate link.
Yeah, it would have been good, but Bo just nailed it with
that was good.
A Zen thing. So I was like, well, we got to run, so let's just make that the...
Oh, yeah. That was good.
I got... The guys at PIA dropped their sysvinit script out of their package that they provide for Debian. And then, so we wrote one. and we included that with an installer routine.
Oh, nice.
And not a week later, and then a whole bunch of our users were PIA users, and so they were complaining that they needed to have this so it would work on MX. And then all of a sudden, PIA brings it back. So that they were listening. I was impressed. Nord told us to get lost, but PIA, because we tried originally to provide them the script. Say, look, we'll write it for you. Just put it in your thing. And Nord didn't want to talk, and PIA. We didn't really ask PIA. We didn't get a response from them, but then they ended up using it anyway. I don't think it's ours. I think they had an older one, but
that's awesome.
It was kind of a weird experience.
I've noticed they're working across a lot more distros now. For instance, getting PIA to work on Arch was like pulling your teeth out. You basically had to just manually set it up through OpenVPN. But then now you can actually run their script right from their webpage and everything works immediately. So they fixed it finally.
This doesn't work yet. destinationlinux.org/PIA. That's not yet, but it will be.
Nate, how you doing, man?
Great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Those DLN extend numbers are making me a little nervous. You might become more popular than us soon.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Once they really get to know me, they're gonna bail. I got my nephew here playing Descent 2 on the new system I built. 200 frames per second on my RX 570 card on that.
Nice.
Dang.
Nice.
That's fire right there. What game is he playing?
Descent 2.
Descent.
Descent, yes.
1996.
Yeah.
Wait.
I love Descent.
200 frames on.
I still love it.
That whole game series rocks. Descent 1, 2, 3, and then even the free space stuff afterwards. All that stuff's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. Yeah, that's my jam dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's but the Descent Rebirth, I know it's like an open source rebuild of it. So they actually add like all the OpenGL stuff. They add like when you fire the weapons, it lights up like the dynamic lighting. They have all kinds of fun stuff in it now. So it's actually
making Descent pretty. That's worth it right there. That's a heck of a game.
It's actually not too bad. And I like it. And so apparently, how old are you? 10? Yeah. To a 10-year-old, it's pretty awesome. So
awesome.
Nice.
Nate, good seeing you. I got a jet and go be a scout dad. I'll see you later.
Right.
See you. Thanks, Dolphin.
Thanks, Mike. See you. Nice meeting you, Bo.
All right. So,
seconds go.
Yeah, go 2 seconds. The DLN extend is doing pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I'm editing the show right now.
Nice. So, have y'all decided like what the scheduling for it?
So it seems like Thursday or Friday is the best time for us to record, for us to actually listen to all the other shows.
Mm-hmm.
Although you didn't do one, and neither did Noah. And I think that works best.
Yeah.
Unless we could get earlier access to yours, or if I can hear it live, which that doesn't always happen.
Right.
And so right now, like Wednesdays is kind of rough for me. Thursdays can be rough for me, but Fridays is typically my best day.
Okay.
To record.
So
I'm hoping if we can get. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you want to like change it to like do like a release on Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, I'd like to get to this. I ultimately like to have it released on Sunday, and because like people may or may not get to it. Yeah, Sunday makes sense. That's what Eric says. But
okay.
I'm editing it right now. I had like some serious, horrible network issues yesterday. First time. I blame Bo. I think he hacked my wireless. The wireless was down. I couldn't get the wireless to work because he was giving me a hard time on the DOS Geek channel about my cameras in the fridge. So
if it said Barrel Coffee, it was definitely Bo.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I don't actually blame you, Bo. Although in my mind I want to blame you because I think it'd be funny if you actually did that. Oh,
you're muted, Bo.
You're muted.
It's actually a privilege to be hacked by Bo because you get a sticker too. After he hacks, he does. He has a green skull sticker that he does once hacked. So
that's awesome.
It's like an honor.
That's awesome. It's like, yeah, we can't hear it for some reason. It's not muted in Zoom, so I'm not sure what happened.
So Nate, are you going to join DLN Gamer Night?
That's
I
back.
can
It's
hear
back,
that.
Bo.
It's back.
Yeah.
What are we
Okay.
gonna? I'd like to join. Not really sure. Dental pick this right here. Clean it
Sure.
up.
Sure. Naturally.
I don't know what when is it going to be? Is it Tuesday?
November 9th.
Saturday, November 9th.
November 9th. Okay. I think I should be able to.
That'd be cool.
I don't think I'm working.
Me and
but
Michael
what
have to
games
pick
we're gonna
some
play.
games.
I'm really terrible at all games unless they're like 30 years old.
That's great. You'll fit in perfect with us.
Most games I'm awful at. Rocket League's the only one I'm actually good at. The rest of them just no.
Yeah.
I'm actually, if I do play, it's going to be on my new rig over there.
Nice.
I'm excited
Yeah,
about that.
absolutely. That'll be awesome. I hope you can join us.
I don't have all my, I don't have all my I don't have my storage array set up yet, but I'm going to do.
You notice how excited they were when they first got their podcast? Then they looked at their numbers, Michael. Now they won't even hang out with us on gaming night.
I know. It's just wow.
Pretty typical. You
It's
know?
like
Now they're
I'm
big
not
time.
a good gamer.
Eric also said he doesn't. He's not going to do it either. Yeah. See what's
Yeah, I
going
know.
on.
They think they're all big time now. Those egos just grow, don't they?
So quick.
They start out so sweet and innocent, and then they just turn into egomaniacs.
Oh, I don't think I can get an ego for me.
They're like, you guys now need to cover our show. That will be your.
That's not going to happen.
Actually, it might. It's possible.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you disagree with us on anything, then we're gonna lamb blast you on Destination Linux.
Well, I think the last episode they did disagree with us.
I know they did. How dare they?
I don't think it's been both of them, but I'm pretty sure it was the latest one.
Yeah. Well,
No, the first one we didn't. I think the first one was pretty tame.
yeah,
0 was tame. I think 1 was a little more.
it was great. I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such a good podcast.
But-
seriously.
So, pulse effects, like doing all that stuff. So that the pre-processing. You call it pre-processing? Is that what you call that?
Mm-hmm.
Has made editing so much easier. Like OMG. It's
Yes.
way. Yeah, like someone should have told me about this, a long time ago.
Well, I mean, we
Yeah.
told you as soon as you started doing podcasting, right? So
That counts for something.
yeah.
Hey, you guys can do something I can't do. I mean, if I tried to put a video together, it'd look like my grandson did it.
I don't know. Your grandson could probably do a pretty good job. He gets around.
Yeah.
Yeah. He helped build my. Actually, I'm going to be doing a video this week on the touch display with the pie hole. And what's interesting is it's the pie hole that your grandson and my son built together at one of the lug events. So, it's the touch screen portion of it that they built, the whole surrounding device. So it'll be on my channel. Not pictures of him or anything. Don't worry. I know you would hack me if I did that. It's just talking about it.
Well, actually, his life has been on the internet since
Yeah, that's
5 minutes after he was born.
Yeah.
And that's
So
something
crazy.
I find real scary is the fact that, our children are growing up where their whole life has been archived and is searchable.
Yep. Well, I went to Disney World. I told the story on Destination Linux, and they wanted to take pictures of my kids. And my wife, actually, because I was behind in the line, I saw her over there fighting with the security guards, and I'm like, oh, God, here she goes. Michael knows. She's a fighter. And I got up there, and I was like, what's going on? She goes, they want to take pictures of the kids because they say that they don't store it, but they take pictures to make sure while you're here that you don't sneak other kids in. And my wife was like, no.
Oh,
She goes, no, you're not taking pictures of it. And the lady was and Disney World's supposed to be this great customer service. She was so upset. She's like, what do you mean we can't take pictures of kids? And she's like, you're not taking it. And then the girl goes to move her iPad to take a picture anyways. And my wife gently moves that iPad away. And she says, you're not taking pictures of my kids. And then she goes, okay, well, you got to use our alternative means of setting up. And we're like, fine, as long as it doesn't involve pictures or anything.
Yeah,
It
the
was just
fact that it took that much effort for you to even say that they have an alternative method is so messed up.
It is.
yeah,
so
and
messed
they've got such serious, intrusive security there because, yes, they keep those pictures. They archive those pictures
Yep.
Of course
because
they
they want to see if you come back again.
do. Right.
Yeah.
And that's
Yep.
what they use. See, like that way, if grandma brings the kids back to Disney World, they know that that's your kids.
Side of
Yep.
mine.
And now you got a link between grandma, the kids, and you.
Yep.
Yeah, Disney's is a weird company because, like, one, they're so awful in so many ways. Like, they're privacy blocking, they're privacy intrusive. They destroyed copyright as a system because they're selfish. And but they also make Marvel movies, though.
Yeah. And they make really great,
and
and
they're
they
good
do
movies.
make really great kids movies, movies that you want your children to watch. But
Yeah.
yet they are, in the background, a very evil company.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like I don't like them, but Marvel movies.
Yeah,
So-
I know. Yeah, it's one of those things. You can't avoid them. They're like Google. Like a lot of people say,
Yeah.
I don't ever use any Google services. Well, so many
It's-
websites use Google stuff behind
Right.
the scenes.
You're
that-
automatically using it, and there's a guarantee you're using you're in some sort of Google Analytics, like no matter what.
Yeah, yeah. But so, Bo, I was going to ask you, what servers do you have dropped that you have for DigitalOcean? As far as, are you using OpenVPN? Is that what you're using to connect to your? Okay.
Yeah, I'm using OpenVPN.
So you dropped an OpenVPN droplet, and then you just have your machines connecting through it as the tunnel first.
Yeah, I've got a little script, and the little script you download from the OpenVPN server. I just run that script, and it connects to the OpenVPN and runs. It does all the routing and everything, where even my DNS lookups go out through the tunnel.
Perfect, because I saw that on, they have it in DigitalOcean has it in the marketplace now, where it's pre-built. Basically, you can just drop an OpenVPN and Pi-hole combo with one click, where it's based on, and then you go and of course harden it and lock it down yourself. But as far as dropping the server, it's one click.
Yeah, I saw that they now have it to where it's a one-click deal to set it up. When I put mine up there, it was I set the Debian server up and then put OpenVPN on it.
Well, I'm curious if you do that, Ryan, to if you load the marketplace one to see if when you update what happens. Like, because basically, I'm a huge fan of DigitalOcean, but their marketplace is typically out of date with most of the software. So I'm curious if you get an older version of it and then upgrade it, does it get all the latest features for the latest versions of different things? Like, that would be
So
interesting
far,
to me.
mine seems to be updating just fine.
I'm dropping one today, so I'll let you know. I'm gonna.
Cool.
It was on. I saw it last night. Funny enough, because I was looking into it, and then I got tired, and I was like, I'm not gonna drop a server tonight. And then today, though, I think I'm gonna
Yeah,
doing that.
that's where website is. That's where my own cloud server is. And I've used their site. Well, when I wrote the book, I wanted to do a real world pivot around the world for the book to show that, for one thing, I wanted to show to people was that just because the media says, oh, hackers from Russia were attacking us, that's, just because the attack came from a Russian server doesn't mean a Russian was doing it.
Right.
So I set up SSH servers in just about every data center that DigitalOcean's had, and ran pivots and pivoted through all those machines and showed it in the book. And then attacked myself back here from Taiwan.
So do you use like a 1 gigabyte? Is that enough to run OpenVPN? They're 1 gigabyte.
Almost
25
guaranteed,
gig?
yeah.
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 The $5 option.
No, I used the $10 option. I think
Okay.
it's got two. Yeah, because the $5 option, isn't that just 512 of RAM?
It used to be. It's 1 gig now.
Oh, really? Well, I need to rebuild my web server then, because it's still on 512 of RAM.
Yeah, the latest version has 1 gig for the $5 one.
1 gig ought to do it for OpenVPN.
Yeah.
Especially because with OpenVPN, unless you buy the paid for version, you're only allowed 2 connections.
Gotcha.
And if
I
it's a
just wanted to say
personal,
thank you
yeah,
for
if
the
it's a
show.
personal server, those two connections are good enough for you.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Something else that I do with that VPN server is, like, if I go to a conference and I need to get back into my house, I use what Hack5 calls a LAN turtle. It's a little, it looks like a USB network adapter. but I plug it into a power supply, and it's got a Linux box on it, but it connects to the VPN server, and then I can pivot back into my house through that LAN turtle.
Hack 5 has is like adorable in their branding of all the things they make. With
It
like,
sounds all cute, and then it's all
yeah,
destructive.
yeah. It's the Bash Bunny, it's the land turtle, it's the Wi-Fi pineapple. It's
Yeah, they give it these cutesy names like the Bash Bunny. Oh, that's so cute, but that's one of the most dangerous. That's the most dangerous physical hacking tool on the planet.
yeah.
Love it. So
That thing should be listed as a weapon of mass destruction. It really should be.
awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to leave. Thank you both so much for jumping.
Oh,
in
here,
this.
I'll show you what.
Okay.
Yeah, let me show you this land turtle.
Let me see it. Oh, I was going to ask you too, Bo, while you're looking at that. What is the? I want to learn more about this stuff. Which is the first book of yours I should start with?
Well, the Kali 2 Windows penetration testing, but get the second edition.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's the land turtle.
It looks so innocent.
Yeah, it looks. Matter of fact, Ross has got a USB network adapter that looks identical to this.
And what does this device do again?
This is basically a running Linux box. So when you wire it up, you fire it up on your network, you've got a Linux box, and it will eat. And see, you can put a USB power adapter on it and then plug it into a power supply, or you can plug it in the back of a computer.
Very cool.
This thing will ET phone home to my VPN server, and then I've got a connection, which then I can pivot back through this thing into the network.
Very nice.
And it does it. You program it to where all you got to do is, if you walk into a location, you plug it up, plug it in, and it does all that automatically. You don't have to configure anything. I've used this in physical access. I've dropped this in data centers before, where I got access into for offices. You go in, you do the, hi, I'm from AT&T. I'm here to fix your internet. And they take you to the telco room. Well, you plug this little puppy in, and, well, you got them now.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Not surprising, but terrifying.
Well, I saw somebody say, as long as you have a Daniel, we can hear you. Pretty much get into anywhere.
No, is it Ansem? I can't tell.
This is true.
Yeah, you need to be scared when you see me carrying this bag around.
Well, you bring it to every conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't seen this bag at the lug. But.
Oh, okay. All right. I know you carry a bag with you.
Yes.
I love it because during the conference, everyone's always looking over to make sure Bo's not hacking.
It's like, are we on the right network?
Yeah. For those evil twin attacks, the main thing you want to do is you want to have a more powerful AP point than the one that you're doing the evil twin on. This is a 100 milliwatt booster for a AP point. So you can make
yours the most prominent signal.
Yeah. So you make it the most prominent signal by screwing this into your pineapple. So that's a amplifier.
It's actually kind of fun. I think I was at the lug that y'all did the testing with, like when you did the whole Wi-Fi thing, because I was pretty sure I was standing there and you said something like, we're gonna do a hacking demonstration thing, and I was like, wait, am I on this Wi-Fi? I'm not sure.
Nobody escapes.
I just want to say thanks to Bo. I've learned a lot about VPN network. I'm still a Linux administrator and a network administrator, and I learned a lot of VPN. We're using checkpoint firewalls in our company, and it was very interesting what he said. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Awesome.
Nice.
You better watch them checkpoint firewalls. They're not very good.
Do you crack those
they're the
often?
market leader on the VPN, the hardware appliance.
Well, the thing I don't like about checkpoint firewalls is they've got this, you make all your firewalls join this administration server. And if you get into the administration server, then you got control over all the firewalls.
Right, this is correct.
And I've done that before. Checkpoints don't have the best security. They really don't. You see them all the time, especially on Windows networks, but that's the main firewall I've gotten into is checkpoints, where like IP fire and, Linux-based firewalls, if they're properly configured, I'd just go away. They're not worth wasting my time on.
Nice. That is good to know too.
Yeah, look at Metasploits and run a search on Checkpoint and see how many exploits pop up for Checkpoint. I hate to diss their product, but
if they deserve it,
no problem.
if they deserve it. So I'm gonna have to go too. I gotta go take care of the dog and stuff.
Yeah, me too. I need to go find something to eat.
Yep, sounds like
throw another log on the fire. It's actually cold here right now.
I know it's getting cold in Georgia, and it's colder where you're at.
Just put just put the logs in Devnall. Problem solved.
Of course, thanks to all. It was a great show again.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Daniel.
Have a good one.
All right. See y'all next time.
Bye-bye.